evening. My name is Arlene Herson. The name of the show is Getting to Know You, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Tonight, we're going to get to know a man who never misses a beat. His rhymes are sublime, and he has the Oscars and an Emmy to prove that he writes the songs that make the whole world sing. Some of those songs are Three Coins in the Fountain, Love and Marriage, All the Way, High Hopes, Second Time Around, Come Fly With Me, and Pocket Full of Miracles, just to name a few. Some of the entertainers he has written material for include Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, Paul Anka, Tony Bennett, and Jack Jones. He may have written a song called Call Me Irresponsible, which, by the way, he won an Oscar for, but he is not irresponsible. He is responsible, reliable, and extremely talented. He is Sammy Cahn, and let's get to know him right after these messages, so please stay right there.
Every year, thousands of people are killed with a frying pan. Reduce your intake of high-fat fried foods and help reduce your risk of cancer and heart disease. For a free booklet on low-fat eating, call 1-800-EAT-LEAN.
Randy Travis on strings, Branford Marsalis on the horn, Paul Schaefer on keys, Carly Simon on lead. There are a lot of different parts to play in the American Red Cross. Play your part.
Dummy.
You're pathetic.
You little brass.
Child abuse is also known by some other words.
Jerk.
You moron.
You're so clumsy.
Words like these can hit as hard as a fist.
You were never born. I hate you.
What you say to your children can determine how they feel about
You
themselves
slob. You're worthless.
and how they feel about you. Get the picture. Stop using words that hurt. Start using words that help. For helpful information, contact us.
We're back. I'm Arlene Herson, and we're here with Sammy Cahn in his New York City apartment. Thank you very much for having us here.
I'm very pleased to be sitting with you.
All right, well, I'm happy to be here because I've been learning a lot about Sammy Cahn. As I mentioned in the introduction, you're a songwriter, not just a songwriter. You've been a producer, an author. You write, as I mentioned, songs that make the whole world sing, but you also wrote a book. And in your book, you said in the beginning you were given advice to open with the closing. So I'm going to open with the closing. I'm going to take your advice. The very end of your book, you gave recipes for matzo brie and for chicken. Now, why was that? Is Sammy Cahn a cook also?
Well, it's amazing how many people are interested in cooking. And invariably they ask me, do I cook? And I say, yes, I do two things. I do a matzo brie and I do Hawaiian chicken. You might say the Hawaiian is Jew-Hawaiian chicken, but that's another story. But the matzo brie is a very famous recipe because it's very simple to make. I need 1 egg and 1 sheet of matzah, and that's all. People say, that's all? That's all.
Well, I tell you, I saw the recipes, and also the Hawaiian chicken looked easy and good. I'm going to try them both. It really did look very simple. And afterwards, I'll give you a review, not on the songs, but on the chickens. But that's just among your talents. Now, I kind of wanted the cooking. Your father owned a restaurant. You were brought up on the Lower East Side.
The lowest part of the Lower East Side.
Which means?
Which means if I took one step back, I'd be in New Jersey. I mean, I was on the lowest part of the Lower East Side.
One son with 4 sisters.
Very, very difficult chore in life. You know, an only son has this awesome responsibility. And I failed DDL. You know what DDL is?
I'm going to ask.
Doctor, dentist, lawyer. I failed, and you know what a terrible thing that is to do to a mother who has one son. I mean, if you have many sons, you have some area for spread, you know, but here I am, the only son, and I'm not going to be a DL, doctor, dentist, or lawyer. It was a shocking, shocking thing to my mother. Really.
Yeah, I'm sure. As a matter of fact, and in reading your book, I understand your mother was a very domineering kind of a person.
She was a very, very rare lady.
In what way?
I mean that here's a woman that came from Galicia, Poland. My father, these two people came to America. It's a typical story. I don't know if they were in steerage or below steerage. I don't know, but they came as low as you can come to America. But here are these people who don't know the language and don't know where they're going literally, and come to America. And this woman who couldn't read or write became a dominant force in our little area on Cannon Street. And this woman became a power in politics. There was a John F. Ahern Democratic Club on East Broadway, I'll never forget. My mother knew that that's where you went when you had problems. And the first thing she would do when she came to an area is to find out, was there a synagogue? And if there wasn't, she made sure there would be one, if it was just in a storefront. And the neighbors would come to my mother for advice and for help. It was like the Jewish lords. There was a line of people waiting to speak to my mother all the time.
But I'm sure it's not so easy having a mother that powerful growing up.
It was easy for me.
It was.
I must say, she made me play the violin and made my sister, Sadie, play the piano. And I often wonder what might have happened had she opted the other way, to give me lessons at the piano instead of the violin. I'm afraid to think what might have happened.
Oh, what do you think would have happened?
I cannot cope with the notion that if I had been able to play the piano, I play at the piano now, self-taught, but if I had been an educated pianist, I might have tilted the world, which is maybe the reason I am not a pianist.
Well, you tilted the world in another way. I mean, you do play the piano, and I've seen you play the piano many times, but you taught yourself. I've heard that you can play almost any instrument, pick it up.
Well, if you leave me alone with a musical instrument, I will master it and learn how to play it. Yeah. I don't care what it is. I will find out what its secrets are.
Self-taught in a lot of things, because you mentioned the violin. Now, you grew up on the Lower East Side, skinny kid, always with a violin
and always
case.
Without hair, it seems.
Okay, and always with glasses. Now, you look like a bookworm, but I hear you were exactly the opposite. You were a terror.
I see. At age 10, I discovered the vaudeville theater. I discovered vaudeville at the Loews Delancey. I was 10 years old. Vividly, I remember it. Looking at the stage, and who was on the stage? Milton Berle at age 15, doing a flash act. Not in the connotation we know of flash act now. A flash act was a brash comedian with four little soubrettes, girls. That was called a flash act. And Milton Berle, at age 15, was doing this act. And I can always tell you to the day how much older than he is than I am. I'm going to celebrate my 73rd birthday in June. Milton Berle will be 78 when I'm 73. And so vaudeville became the whole motivating factor in my life. I tell people, if I had been born in 1900 instead of 1913, I would be George Burns.
Okay, but wait a minute. You were born in 1913. You were born on the Lower East Side. You went to Seward Park High School. You were...
Occasionally I went to Seward Park.
That's what I'm bringing up. You didn't go to school very often. You played hooky. You were terrible. Now, you never graduated from high school.
I have a record for truancy at the Seward Park High School, which stands to this day. Never matched. No one compares to my... I discovered vaudeville, and I played in a little orchestra, and there was nothing a teacher could teach me during the day that I hadn't learned the night before.
Yeah, but you write lyrics that are sentimental, that are meaningful, that, I mean, really express feelings unlike, I think, anybody else. How did you learn? You didn't go to school? You didn't graduate from school?
Well, I will explain that to you. See, I am one of the rare lyric writers who believes that a word is only as good as the note it sits under. I get more credit than I deserve, because what I am doing is listening to music. Music has a mesmerizing effect on me. When I hear a melody for the first time, it's a virgin melody. It doesn't have anything but notes. It speaks to me, and I'm a sort of translator. What I try to tell people, it's very hard for me to make people understand this. When a fellow goes to the piano and he plays what I call a professional piece of music, he has made it ready for lyric. All I do is listen. When Julie Stein played for me, da 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 dee da da.
It's magic.
I knew when I came to write it that it would say, "You sigh, the song begins. You speak, and I hear violins. It's magic." So in other words, what I'm doing is listening to what the music is saying to me. Now you can take any piece of music, and I tell young people who are wanting to learn how to write to pick any piece of music that they love. Take T for Two, or take All the Things You Are by Jerome Kern, and rewrite the words for yourself. So what you'll be doing, you wake up tomorrow and you are writing with Jerome Kern.
You make it sound very easy. It's not so easy. I know you do that. You rewrite the words all the time for your own songs.
Yes, I do. Well,
Lots
that's
of
why I
special
write
things.
specially, but I'm writing all the time.
Okay, you mentioned your mother earlier. You failed DDL. You didn't become a doctor, dentist, or lawyer. You did become a songwriter, but you had to run away to the Bronx.
What I say, if you live in New York City, it's kind of a funny handicap. Where do you run away to? I mean, if a boy lives, like last night at the Songwriters Hall of Fame, we inducted Jimmy Webb. He came from some place called Irving, Texas. That's some Lubbock, Texas. Well, I can see where he runs away to, either to Hollywood, or he runs away to New York, or to Nashville. But where does a boy who lives in New York City run away to? I didn't run away. I walked from Cannon Street to 46th Street.
Well, 46th Street is still Manhattan.
And Broadway. I walked.
That's a long walk.
And when my mother discovered the tragedy of what she felt the tragedy was, that I wasn't going to have any kind of formal education, no way of making a living, it became a terrible, terrible disaster. And so I ran away from home and literally slept on the floors of office buildings around the Broadway area. I remember vividly, there was a cafeteria on 49th Street called Kellogg's Cafeteria. And Lou Levy, a young fellow who was a man who went on to become one of the great music publishers, Lou Levy and I would go to the Kellogg's Cafeteria and stay in this cafeteria till 7 o'clock in the morning. Then walk around to 46th Street and 6th Avenue and check into a little hotel where the two of us could spend a night for $1.50.
Wow, okay, things have changed. We have to take a break right now so we can earn our $1.50, and then we're going to come back and talk some more. We're speaking with Sammy Cahn. We're in his apartment in New York. We'll be right back, so don't go away, please.
See you later, Carol.
I don't know if you'll remember me, but I'll never forget you. I'm Mr. Signorelli's daughter. I didn't think about what would happen if he went into cardiac arrest. I didn't realize that at 6 a.m. a nurse would call the shots and save his life.
If you have the smarts and the guts to study biology, chemistry, anatomy, and psychology, call 1-800-962-NURSE. If caring were enough, anyone could be a nurse.
Hey, how you doing?
Look what I do in school today, Grandpa.
The heart, the aorta, the left and right ventricles, and the auricles.
Grandpa, did you want to be a doctor when you were little?
Well,
Dreams need never again be forgotten.
You would have been the best doctor, Grandpa.
Please support the United Negro College Fund.
Can I be a doctor, Grandpa? Mom, I'm tired. Can we go home now?
2 months ago, the only job this woman could take was one where she could take her son with her. What do you do when there's no one to watch him but you? She's getting help at a daycare center. They got help from the United Way. All because the United Way got help from you. The United Way. It brings out the best in all of us.
We're back with Sammy Cahn here in his apartment in New York. You've come a long way since those days that we were talking about, but just one more story from those days. You have a mustache, and you've had a mustache. It's real now, but your first mustache, I hear, was not real, and you put it on in Atlantic City.
I was playing with this little orchestra, and we got an engagement to play in the Brigantine Island off Atlantic City. And there we were, the 6 Dixieland Orchestra, most seemingly, and me on the violin. And we pulled up in front of this incredible place. I looked around, and I just felt that we were not cast correctly for this place. And then I saw a sign that said, restricted clientele. I wonder what that meant. And someone said, that means we're going to have to put a mustache on you, and your name's going to be Sammy Valenti. And they did. They penciled a mustache on me. And that mustache, for some reason, has haunted me all my life. Now and again, people will say, do me a favor. They'll do this. Or they'll say, take it off. I say, you'll be sorry. And I do shave it off. And people say, oh, my Lord, put it back on. And I've been mustachioed, you might say, ever since Brigantine Island.
In Atlantic City.
In Atlantic
Okay,
City.
responsible for
the look.
Your mustache, for the look. Now, you mentioned your parents. Obviously, they became very, very proud of you. You have written the songs for some of my favorite songs, certainly. Just some of them. Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow. I was singing it the other day. Time After Time, Love and Marriage, I'll Walk Alone. You write the words. There must be music, obviously.
Oh,
now,
yes.
Okay.
There has to be great music, and I've been very fortunate. But I must tell you, go back to my mother for an instant. My mother lived to see the song by Mavis Duchesne in 1937, that's 50 years ago, become one of the giant smash hits. And she finally understood what it was that I did.
Okay, so she did that.
She lived to see that happen.
That was interesting that was your very first hit and a major, major hit. But there had to be music, as you mentioned.
The music was very important, and I had some incredibly talented people.
Okay, does there have to be, is it like Love and Marriage is one of the songs that you wrote, is it like a marriage working with a collaborator, working
absolutely.
with a composer?
I must tell you that when you walk into a room with a man or a woman, if there are some great lady composers, but I've always worked with men. And when you walk into a room with a fellow, what you're doing is having a baby. It's really a love affair, and you create a song. And it's a very, very, very delicate operation. And after you write the song, then you have to learn the song you have written. And after you learn the song you have written comes what you call the birth of the song. When you sing the song for the first time to the fellow who's going to pay for it. And I am a lethal demonstrator.
Well, I'm sure you and the fellow's going to pay for it. You have written a lot of songs for Frank Sinatra. Many of his major, major hits, and if I'm going to mention a few of those songs now again too, My Kind of Town, Chicago Is, All the Way, Second Time Around, Come Fly With Me, September of My Years, written especially for him. Now, he was a very strong supporter. I understand he was instrumental in your getting jobs in the beginning.
I will tell you, I say today, if Frank Sinatra can get to a phone, he can get to me for a lyric. As a matter of fact, Thursday of this week, the phone rang, and it was Sinatra's secretary to say that he was looking for me. I said, well, he's found me. And she said, it's an emergency. I said, what's the emergency? She said, well, you know he's going into the music hall with Ella Fitzgerald, Red Buttons, Benny Goodman, and Placido Domingo. I said, he's sure taking a lot of help with him. He said, he's going to ask you for a closing song. I said, that's all right. And what makes me different, the moment she said that to me, the gears began to mesh. I stood up, I went to the typewriter. I only work at a typewriter. And the miracle is that I put a piece of paper in. Upper left-hand corner, I write Frank Sinatra and Friends Music Hall. Then I write the title that I choose to write the lyrics for him. And the song I chose was Saturday Night, a song which he made a big hit. You know the song, Saturday night is the loneliest night in the week.
Absolutely.
So I write down Saturday night, and then I start to write the lyric. I'd say tonight is the loveliest night of the year, because some gracious people told me they would appear. You heard the merriment he led, the funny buttons my friend read. I'm sure that you liked him a lot, though a dinner he never got. Now, I started to use that for the lyric. And I wrote that in about 15 minutes, the whole closing for the music hall. And that's what I do. One single time at the typewriter. I hope you comprehend what I'm saying, because I chuckle at it.
Yes.
I put the piece of paper in. When I take the paper out, the lyric is finished. No paper scattered over the floor, no running.
Just one time. Okay,
One
but you do
single
this
time.
for many people. I mean,
yes.
you have taken a song, Saturday Night, which is the loneliest night of the year, which was one of your major hits, changed the words. You do this over and over again for
Special
people.
lyrics for special occasions.
That easy, just like that?
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back again and talk about some more miracles. Maybe a pocket full of miracles. We'll be back. We're speaking with Sammy Cahn. We're in his apartment. We'll be right back after these messages, so please don't go away.
Everyone makes mistakes, Matthew. Don't pay any attention to the other children.
For this bright 6-year-old, the ABCs have never been as simple as ABC. Where do you go when you're different from the other kids? He got help at a Center for Learning Disabilities. They got help from the United Way. All because the United Way got help from you. The United Way. It brings out the best in all of us.
I was going to take a job with an engineering firm in New York. I got a better offer. I'm building schools overseas with the Peace Corps. The pace is a little slower than New York, but here I'm getting grassroots experience I couldn't get anywhere else. The way I look at it, the world can wait 2 years for another 40-story smoked glass high-rise.
Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love.
It's time for You Lost Your Life with your hosts, Christ Dummies, Vince and Larry.
Hi! Hello, and welcome to the show that proves if you don't buckle your safety belt, the loser is you.
That's right, Vince, and by not buckling up, you could end up in places you never dreamed.
Like traction!
Or the emergency room!
Plus, Larry, if you're not buckled up, you could maybe take a ride in a beauty like this. Stay tuned!
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
We're back with my guest, Sammy Cahn, here in his apartment. Before the break, you told us how easy it was to write special material, that you could just do it like that. Could you do it now for me?
For instance, if I had to, the name is Arlene Herson.
Right.
I'd be irresponsible, I'd be unreliable if I didn't say loud and clear. I just love this show. I am here today and in person.
With Arlene Herson?
Getting to know you with Arlene Herson. That's it.
Okay, gee, that was pretty fast. You know, it reminds me, Paul Anka is somebody that has become, I understand, like a son to you.
Yes, yes.
The first time that you met him, did you write special material? Was it a phone call?
He called me in the Sands Hotel in the steam room, and a voice said, "Mr. Cahn, Paul Anka." I said, "Come on, who's this?" "It's Paul Anka." I said, "Look, stop calling me Mr. Cahn, because I'm not going to call you Mr. Anka. What can I do for you?" He says, "Well, you write special material for all those fellas. Would you write special material for me?" And that's what separates Paul Anka from the rest of them. I'm going back with you now over 20 years. And he then asked me to write for him because he knew I wrote for Sinatra and all the other gentlemen. He's a very, very special person in my life.
But he writes a lot of his own songs.
Yeah, but he writes songs, but he doesn't write special material. And that's what I do. Now it's what I do more than anything else.
You also, I guess, even though you do a lot of it now, you wrote special material for John F. Kennedy's inaugural ball, the very first time he ran High Hopes.
Was written for his theme. This past Monday night, I was in Washington, D.C., doing an evening for Edwin Meese, the Attorney General of the United States. Special material. 3 men at the White House, each one seeking happiness. 3 men at the White House, each one at the same address. You follow?
That's terrific. Have you ever, I mean, obviously you say nice things. Have you ever gotten in a situation where you did special material and hurt somebody's feelings, had them not be happy with it?
Well, no. I've written special material that turns out to offend somebody's feelings, but it's not intended that way. So as a rule, my special lyrics are to make fun, like for the phone company. Time after time, I take the normal dime, and normal dime gives you an idea how long ago that was, and try to make the normal call. I hear the coin drop, the tone begin and stop, then a lonely silence, and that's all. I only know what I know. You guys owe me some dough. And chums, the sum's not very small, 'cause time after time I've used more than 1 dime, and I never made a call at all.
Okay, well, that's something that maybe the telephone company is not that pleased with, but that's wonderful. Was that done just for fun, or was that done for frustration?
That was done for an evening for the phone company, sung to the phone company.
Wow, okay. We only have 60 seconds left, and that is not fair, because there is so much to talk about. We've talked about what you've done for other people. Will you come back on the show so we can talk more about Sammy Cahn, get to know about this special man and the special people you write for?
If you don't come back, I'll be offended.
Okay, well, we are going to come back, and I thank you very much for taking the time now. You've done something special for us, and I thank you.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. We're speaking with Sammy Cahn. I hope that you enjoyed getting to know him as much as I did, and that you'll join us again next week. Meantime, good night. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. My name is Arlene Herson. The name of the show is Getting to Know You, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Tonight, we're going to get to know a man the second time around. Last week, he was on the show, and we just couldn't fill it. Second time around happens to be one of the many, many songs he has written. He has written for all of the major stars. He is a songwriter, author, and an actor, we're going to find out. He's even been on Broadway in his own show. His name is Sammy Cahn, and let's get to know him just right after these messages, so please stay right there.
The animals in the forest. If they could talk, what would they say? They might say, be careful with fire in the forest. just like Smokey says. Only you can prevent forest fires.
It's time for You Lost Your Life with your hosts, Christ Dummies, Vince and Larry.
Hi! Hello, and welcome to the show that proves if you don't buckle your safety belt, the loser is you.
That's right, Vince, and by not buckling up, you could end up in places you never dreamed.
Like traction!
Or the emergency room!
Plus, Larry, if you're not buckled up, you could maybe take a ride in a beauty like this. Stay tuned!
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
I was going to take a job with that engineering firm in New York. I got a better offer. I'm building schools overseas with the Peace Corps. The pace is a little slower than New York, but here I'm getting grassroots experience I couldn't get anywhere else. The way I look at it, the world can wait 2 years for another 40-story smoked glass high-rise.
Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love.
We're back. We're with Sammy Cahn in his New York City apartment. And thank you very much. I mentioned in the introduction, second time around, we talked for the first show, and there was so much to Sammy Cahn that I want to get to know more about you. We talked about Frank Sinatra in the first show and how important he was musically.
Well, I'll always be indebted to him because he was signed to do a film called Anchors Aweigh. The first $2 million musical. Can you imagine? $2 million for a musical. The opening shots for Apocalypse Now cost $2 million. But there he was, and they called him out to the MGM studios, and they said, well, who would you like to do this score? Rodgers and Hart, the Gershwins, Cole Porter. Who would you like? He said, Sammy Cahn. They said, we don't mind hiring him. Who is he? And now started a real scene. And Lou Washman, the famous Lou Washman, called me and said, look, if Frank doesn't stop insisting on you, we're liable to lose this whole film. So I went to Frank and said, look, Frank, yesterday nobody knew me, and today everyone hates me. Let's pass on this one. And what makes him Sinatra, he said, if you're not there Monday, I won't be there Monday. And I did the words and music, Frank is Away.
Good friend. Good. So what were some of the songs from Anchors Aweigh?
Well, one great song came out of that's kind of a cult song today called I Fall in Love Too Easily.
Uh-huh.
I fall in love too fast. I fall in love too terribly hard for love to ever last. My heart should be well schooled, 'cause I've been fooled in the past. And still, I fall in love too easily. I fall in love too fast.
Okay, speaking about falling in love too easily, let's Frank Sinatra again. I mean, this is an interview with Sammy Cahn, but he has been so important in your life. His wife, Nancy Sinatra, when he was married, introduced you, I understand, to your first wife. Was
Absolutely.
It at their house that you met?
Yes, I met at the Sinatra home. And she was the one that slipped me a note on one of our first dates and said, ask her tonight, I'm sure this is the time. And I did. I took the beautiful girl out on the floor. Her name was Gloria Delson. And the orchestra wasn't playing one of my songs. They were playing I Don't Know Why, I Love You Like I Do. I don't know why, but I do. I proposed that night and we got married.
Okay, well, you proposed on, even if it wasn't your song, music has been such an important part of your life. You were married to her, you had 2 children.
2 marvelous children, yes. Steve, who is today one of the great jazz guitarists, and my daughter Laurie.
Where's Laurie?
Laurie's in San Francisco. Steve is in New York.
Uh-huh.
They each gave me a grandchild.
Ah, yes, we saw some pictures. As a matter of fact, do you mind if we show a couple of
I would
pictures
appreciate
of
you
your
showing
grandchild? Because she is absolutely precious.
They're very attractive. I'm
pictures.
very fortunate.
Yeah. Okay, but you were very fortunate. You fall in love easily. You said you were married for a long time. You lived on the
18
same...
years.
Okay, and you know, when you had become successful, you lived on the same street as Humphrey Bogart, Judy Garland, Bing Crosby. You had 2 wonderful children, a wonderful marriage. Then it fell apart.
I must tell you, every time you make the ends meet, somebody moves the ends. That's a rule of life. Get used to it. Every time you make the ends meet, someone moves the ends. My divorce was a cruel blow to me. And the only thing I could say to myself was, it'll be good for the ballads.
was it, well, as a matter of fact, Saturday night is the loneliest night in the week. We talked about that in the first show. Did you write that song around that time?
Well, no, that song was written for, one evening I was in the Gotham Hotel, and my sister and her husband came to visit me. My sister Florence and her husband Jules, and I was in a robe, and they said, "What are you doing home Saturday night?" I said, "Saturday night, if you're in show business, is the loneliest night in the week."
Ah, interesting. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about some of the nights that haven't been so lonely. We're speaking with Sammy Cahn. We're in his apartment in New York. We'll be right back after these messages, so please stay right there.
Everyone makes mistakes, Matthew. Don't pay any attention to the other children.
For this bright 6-year-old, the ABCs have never been as simple as ABC. Where do you go when you're different from the other kids? He got help at a Center for Learning Disabilities. They got help from the United Way. All because the United Way got help from you. The United Way. It brings out the best in all of us.
The man.
And dog. For years, this man thought if he just tried hard enough, he could teach himself to read. Where do you go when you can't do it alone? He's getting help in a literacy program for adults. They got help from the United Way. All because the United Way got help from you. The United Way. It brings out the best in all of us.
Mom, I'm tired. Can we go home now?
2 months ago, the only job this woman could take was one where she could take her son with her. What do you do when there's no one to watch him but you? She's getting help at a daycare center. They got help from the United Way. All because the United Way got help from you. The United Way. It brings out the best in all of us.
Hey, how you doing?
Look what I do in school today, Grandpa.
The heart, the aorta, the left and right ventricles, and the auricles.
Grandpa, did you want to be a doctor when you were little?
Well,
Dreams need never again be forgotten.
You would have been the best doctor, Grandpa.
Please support the United Negro College Fund.
Can I be a doctor, Grandpa?
We're back with my guest, Sammy Cahn, and we're here in his New York City apartment. Actually, we're your guest here in your apartment. But we were talking about your first marriage. And I kind of wonder, you were very, very successful at that time, living in Beverly Hills. Was it tough to be single, to start all over again?
Well, a lot of people think the song Second Time Around is kind of telling my life story, but it isn't. It was very, very difficult. I resented going back to being a bachelor. I really resented it. But you do what you need to do and you go forward. And I came back to New York and fell into this circle of the swinging bachelor. And I had a good time, and I may write a book called The Second Time Around, the story of my second bachelorhood.
Oh, wow. Okay, actually, you were married the second time, but the song Second Time Around you wrote in 1960. You were married in 1970.
Well, yeah, but this song was written for a film, and was for Bing Crosby, in which he played a widower who goes back to college and meets a widow. And Jimmy Van Heusen and I met. I said, "What kind of a song do you write for a widow and a widower?" We discarded "I'm Glad You're Dead, You Rascal, You." And finally, one day I said to him, "Do you like a title, The Second Time Around?" And this song has become sort of a hymn of hope for people. When people come up to me and they say, "You wrote my song," they invariably mean The Second Time Around.
Yeah, true. It is a song that gives you a lot of hope, that gives you, and you would have thought it came from personal experience. It didn't. My goodness. But
it's not inspiration. It's concentration.
Okay. But we had mentioned that you have written for some major people: Frank Sinatra, Paul Anka, Tony Bennett. But
you're leaving out one of my great triumphs.
Tell me.
Mario Lanza.
Oh, yes,
Be
of
My
course.
Love.
Be My Love. That was a magnificent song, magnificent voice.
You can't even, if somebody said, did you sing that song to Mario Lanza? That's what chutzpah is. You know the classical definition of chutzpah?
I do, but please tell the audience if they don't know.
This chap kills his parents and he pleads for mercy because he's an orphan.
Yes.
That's chutzpah. But me singing Be My Love to Mario Lanza is giant-size chutzpah.
Yeah.
That was really an experience singing to Mario Lanza.
Oh, I can imagine. His voice has been unmatched, I think.
No one could understand his voice because you're only hearing it mechanically reproduced. To be in a room with Mario Lanza, and I sang the song to him, and he took the lyric out of my hand, and he stared at me, and then he sang it to me, and it was a thundering experience.
Yeah, okay. Good experience. They all haven't been so terrific. I hear that there's one woman who we have all seen in the movies. We think that she is wonderful and nice. Her name is Doris Day.
Oh, yeah, she hit me a very savage blow.
What happened?
Because, well, Julie Stein and I brought Doris Day to the Warner Brothers studios to get her screen tested for a film, never expecting really that she would get anything but a screen test, which was an achievement. She got the part. We wrote her the song It's Magic for that film, and she became a major star. And at one point in my life, there was a chance for me to continue as a producer at Warner Brothers, and all she had to say is yes. And she said no.
Well, you had ulcers as a child, 13, I hear. And
I had ulcers before they were fashionable.
Okay, but you said that Doris Day made your ulcers bleed.
First time they ever bled, Doris Day had that distinction.
Because of the fact that she disappointed you?
I mean, she didn't prepare me for this rejection. I mean, I didn't deserve to be rejected. But you know what they say? No good deed goes unpunished. Think about it.
How was she punished?
I mean, I was punished. I did the good deed.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, you don't have ulcers anymore. You had an operation several years ago. Healthy?
I should have removed her instead of my stomach.
Okay, you know, we really don't expect that of her. But, you know, you have also been, I mentioned, on Broadway. You mentioned that a producer, you produced a couple of things, but you wrote the music, your first Broadway show that never came to Broadway, as a matter of fact. The first show called Glad to See You.
Glad to See You was supposed to star my great and dear departed friend Phil Silvers, whose expression used to be glad to see you. He was supposed to star in that show, and he never did. The show never got to Broadway. It closed in Boston. And the first week in Philadelphia, I stepped into the starring role on the stage in Philadelphia at the Schubert Theater.
But you weren't an actor. You weren't a singer.
What's that
You were
got
a
to do?
lyricist.
What's that got to do with it?
What does that have to do with you on the Broadway stage? Not on, well, on the stage in Philadelphia, in the lead
as I explained
in the
to
musical.
As I explained to you last week, I wanted to be George Burns more than anything in the world. And I'm going to be George Burns. How old is he, 90? I'm going to be George Burns. I wanted to step on the stage, and I did, whether I was ready or not. I love to perform.
Well, you did it again many, many years later. Not only you didn't have to fill in for anybody, words and music by Sammy Cahn, starring Sammy Cahn, big hit on Broadway. Didn't close out.
It was produced by Alexander H. Cohn and our good friend Harvey Granite.
Yes.
They presented me on Broadway, and I danced out on that stage opening night in Broadway. It was one of the great thrills of my life.
What a thrill. I must say, when you walked into Sardi's, and you got a standing ovation.
It was one of the great thrills of my life when they read the reviews to me at 2:30 in the morning. I am not a person who cries easily. I may fall in love easily, but I don't cry easily. But I started to cry that night, and I really cried with the happiness of realizing such a miracle at age 60.
That is fantastic. Well, lots of things happened to you. Actually, at age 60, you had a terrific party that we're going to talk about in a little while. But also, we have this very special book here, which Songs with Lyrics by Sammy Cahn were with all of your songs, I gather. Are all of your songs in here?
You know, you couldn't put all the songs, all the recognizable songs.
Okay. And the songs from here were in Words and Music on Broadway?
Yes.
Do you have a favorite song?
Well, I guess I like to tell people my very favorite song has to be Call Me Irresponsible, because I tell people it has 5-syllable words from a fellow who came from a 1-syllable neighborhood.
Okay, and from a fella, as I mentioned, in our first show, that you are responsible, but you were in that one-syllable neighborhood. You were a really kind of, I was going to say terrible guy. I don't mean terrible guy, but mischievous. You played hooky. You hardly ever went to school.
You name it, I did it.
Okay, and yet you wound up so successful, so famous, and so rich. We're going to take a break and talk about it, how you did that.
Is this the lifestyles of the rich and famous?
We're going to come back and talk about the lifestyles of Sammy Cahn. We're speaking with Sammy Cahn. We're in his apartment in New York. We'll be right back after these messages, so please don't go away.
See you later, Carol.
I don't know if you'll remember me, but I'll never forget you. I'm Mr. Signorelli's daughter. I didn't think about what would happen if he went into cardiac arrest. I didn't realize that at 6 a.m., a nurse would call the shots and save his life.
If you have the smarts and the guts to study biology, chemistry, anatomy, and psychology, call 1-800-962-NURSE. If caring were enough, anyone could be a nurse.
Dummy. You're pathetic.
You little brass.
Child abuse is also known by some other words.
Jerk.
You moron.
You're so clumsy.
Words like these can hit as hard as a fist.
You were never born. I hate you.
What you say to your children can determine how they feel about
You
themselves
slob. You're worthless.
and how they feel about you. Get the picture. Stop using words that hurt. Start using words that help. For helpful information, contact us.
Randy Travis on strings. Branford Marsalis on the horn. Paul Schaefer on keys. Carly Simon on lead. There are a lot of different parts to play in the American Red Cross. Play your part.
Every year, thousands of people are killed with a frying pan. Reduce your intake of high-fat fried foods and help reduce your risk of cancer and heart disease. For a free booklet on low-fat eating, call 1-800-EAT-LEAN.
We're back with my special guest, Sammy Cahn, here in his apartment in New York. Actually, we are living on 68th Street. You are living on 68th Street, which is where we are now, but 13 has been a very important number, very prevalent number.
I was born in 1913. To begin with, I once lived in a house on Mapleton Drive, Lot 13. This is not to be anecdotal. The address was 175, which is 13. Mapleton Drive has 13 letters in it, so the number 13 is very, very meaningful to me.
Okay, one more thing happened on the 13th. Academy Awards in 1963 came out on April 13th. That was also the same day that your first marriage was ended?
Ended at 11 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they sold the house we lived on Mapleton Drive, and that night I didn't go to the Academy Awards.
But you won an Academy Award.
I sent my daughter and Jimmy Van Heusen. And it was one of the great, I must tell you, I'm a very, very lucky man because some of the great thrills have happened to me in my lifetime. The stage, and winning this Academy Award, it was against the song More Than the Greatest. That song was a song this song was supposed to beat. And it was an almost impossible thing to do. But for once, the Academy voted correctly because More was from a film called Mondo Cane, and they wrote lyrics to it after the film. So it wasn't really eligible. And the song Call Me Irresponsible was in the heart of the film, and they voted correctly. God bless them.
Right, and you needed something that day. You needed something positive. Your daughter accepted for you because I know it wasn't the best day. You didn't want to go out, but it turned out to be a happy day.
One of the great, great endings to such a disastrous day.
You won 4 Academy Awards.
If you're counting 5,
Oh?
the Television Academy Award for the song Love and Marriage.
That was an Emmy.
Well, but the
Okay.
Television Academy Award.
Okay, well, okay. All right.
4 Oscars and an Emmy.
I got it. Okay, 4 Oscars and an Emmy. Lots of special things happened to you. A special time, too. Actually, we have some photographs that I would love to be able to share with the
wish
audience.
you would.
First, I want to show one of your 60th birthday.
Please do.
Now, you are surrounded by some very, very famous people there. Frank Sinatra, Paul Anka, Johnny Carson, Milton Berle, your second wife,
Cary Grant.
Cary Grant.
Tita, Milton Berle. Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you, that was one of the great birthday parties of all history. It was given by Paul Anka and my wife, Tita. It was at the Caesar's Palace Hotel. When you arrived, you got a card which said 60 hours for 60 years. The party ran for 60 hours.
You're kidding?
Oh, yes.
60 hours?
60 hours for 60 years.
How did you do that?
I did not mind to question why, mind but to try.
Oh,
It was one of the great, great parties.
Yeah, and lots of stars.
Oh, it was just marvelous. At 2 o'clock, the last night at 4 o'clock in the morning, they arrived Friday, and Sunday, 4 o'clock in the morning, we showed the first West Coast premiere of the film Touch of Class.
Oh, which you also, by the way, happened to write the music for.
A happy coincidence, yes.
Okay. By the way, speaking about coincidence, we mentioned Frank Sinatra. Of course, he was there, an important part of the birthday. But there was one time you and Frank Sinatra had a misunderstanding, and I hear he didn't talk to you for about a year.
Well, we didn't talk for a few years, but because someone had told him something, and I resented the fact that instead of getting mad at me, he should have punched this fellow who told him such a thing.
What did he tell him?
I'm not sure what he said. He said something like, the fellow said, Cahn is talking about you. And instead of Frank Sinatra said, he said, look, why don't you walk away, come on. If Sammy Cahn is talking about me, it's okay. But he took exception to it for some reason. It was a low period for him as well. But we are very, no matter what, I am his friend.
Yeah, interesting, because in the first part of the show, we talked about how loyal he was
yes,
and what a
yes.
good friend he was. But then again, there are things that
he can become, what's the word, Italian? he can become kind of peevish and petulant.
Okay, but he was important in your life. He's the one that first introduced you to John F. Kennedy, and for the inaugural ball, you wound up sitting with John F. Kennedy.
Yes.
Now, also, you were in the White House recently with President Nancy Reagan.
When I did a charity show in London for Prince Charles, and sitting at the table together, he's a very, very personable fellow, really. And we became kind of friendly, chatting with each other. And when he came to America on his way to Australia, this was before he got married, the President and Mrs. Reagan threw him a small dinner party in the private quarters. And just 30 people were invited. And when they asked His Highness who would he like to have, he said Walter Cronkite and Sammy Cahn.
Oh.
I didn't go there with Walter Cronkite, you understand? But it was a really, really great thrill of my life.
We have some pictures that we've been looking at with you and Prince Charles and President and Mrs. Reagan. We also have a picture of you with Paul McCartney and his wife.
He's a very good friend.
His music is so different from your music.
It's music. That's the key word. Actually, incidentally, Paul McCartney and I share the same birthday.
Oh, not the same year.
No, I wish it were. No, but the same birthday, June the 18th.
Oh, where was the picture taken?
The picture was taken in the Grosvenor Hotel in London at a luncheon to honor me.
Yeah.
He's very, very, very flattering in his friendship for me, is Paul McCartney.
We also have a picture with Muhammad Ali.
That was taken at a big, big benefit. He's a charming, charming man and a very, very impish fellow.
Well, but a very impish fellow? I mean, it's hard to think of him as impish.
He plays jokes and he's very mischievous. He's very, very funny, impish, I'd like to think.
Okay.
You wouldn't think so.
Did you write special material for him?
Well, no, not really. There wasn't any occasion to that night, but I could.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, off the top, you told me to do this in the last show. Yeah. If you had to instantly write something from Muhammad Ali, what would you write?
Ali. I'd have to think of a song quick. By golly, by golly, I try to punch out Muhammad Ali.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. You said you could come up with it right away. I want to know if you really could come up with it right
I could
away.
write a whole lyric about it, but that I have to go to the typewriter.
Yeah, I hear you had mentioned earlier that there was a, when you're talking about writing lyrics, is there a new song coming up that you're working on?
Well, I've just written the special lyrics for the Academy Award opening.
Aha.
You will hear the opening. It'll say lyrics by Sammy Cahn. I've just written the special lyrics for NBC's 60th anniversary. Lyrics by Sammy Cahn. I'm working on a Broadway production with Charles Strauss called Bojangles, the life of the original Bill Robinson. And so it never ever stops. And like I said, which comes first, the words or the music? The phone call.
Okay, but also you mentioned you're 73 years old.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
June
You're going to be
18th.
on June 18th. But no signs of slowing down, obviously. We have 60 seconds left. We really are up. What has everything, what do you want to see for Sammy Cahn?
Did you know to do this show was really quite sublime? It took a short time.
Well, it went very fast for me, and I thank you very much for being on my show again, the second time around, 2 weeks in a row. I thank you very much.
I thank you very, very much.
Yeah. I hope that you have enjoyed getting to know Sammy Cahn. I know that I certainly have, and that you'll join us again next week. Meantime, good night. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.